Hello, my name is Bradley Este. I am an avid supporter of the Second Amendment and firearm ownership. I am an Eagle Scout, a frequent hunter, and outdoorsman. I have learned the proper procedures for owning, cleaning, and using a firearm through the State of Louisiana Hunter Education Program. I am qualified as Marksman First Class through the Winchester National Rifle Association Marksmanship Qualification Program. My interest in the Second Amendment made me become aware of the fears many conservative Americans have that the Second Amendment may be repealed. I hope to give a better understanding of the faults and one of the common arguments for repealing the Second Amendment. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in the United States there were 39,773 deaths in 2017 that occurred from the use of firearms. This is an absurd amount of people dying from gun violence, and the rate of gun-related deaths has only increased from previous years. Even with this increasing amount of gun violence in the United States, repealing the Second Amendment or creating stricter or more gun control laws will not be an effective cure for this plague. In order to understand the issues of gun violence, gun control, and the effects of the Second Amendment, a definition and clarification of each must be given. As defined by Gun Violence Archive, gun violence is any act of violence with the use of a firearm with or without injury or death. In addition to homicides or injuries that result from firearms, gun violence can also be characterized as threats to an individual or other criminal actions with the use of a firearm. Gun violence may not even involve more than one individual. Gun violence may result from suicide or other injuries self-inflicted or accidental. Gun control is defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary as the regulation of selling, owning, and use of guns. Gun control is typically seen as a state law that regulates guns in the ways defined. Each state has its own set of gun control laws that dictate the selling, owning, and use of firearms. Both gun violence and gun control affect the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, which states, "A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." As seen from the definitions given, any form of gun control, especially the confiscation of firearms from law-abiding citizens, has the ability to infringe upon a person's God-given right to protect themselves from people with ill intent or a tyrannical government. Going back to the definition of gun violence, it is more than just the murders and mass shootings that are classified under the deaths related to gun violence. If we were to look at the less-known statistics from the CDC, we will see that only 36.6% of firearm-related deaths were homicides. The majority of the other deaths were caused from suicide or unintentional misfirings from untrained owners. From this new unpublicized perspective, we can see that the overwhelming cause of gun violence-related deaths are not from bad people trying to hurt others, but mentally ill people trying to harm themselves. The sad truth is, firearms only accounted for around half of the suicides recorded in 2017. If a person was intent on causing this extreme of self-harm, then they would go to any means to facilitate their actions. This goes the same for criminals who wish to terrorize people or kill them. They will either find other methods or illegally acquire firearms. The most important way to rid the nation of gun violence, crime, and death is with better education of gun owners and youth. One would be wise to point out that if all gun owners are mentally healthy people, and if they are properly trained in the proper use of handling firearms, then no gun accidents or violence should occur. Therefore, education should be the most important line of defense to lessen gun violence, crime, and death. In further support of this idea, studies show that children taught about firearms and their legitimate use by family members have much lower rates of delinquency than children in households without guns. And children introduced to guns associate them with freedom, security, and recreation, not violence. Children need to know how firearms can greatly affect their lives and the lives of others. When children know the dangers of and proper use of firearms, then they will be less likely to use them in harmful ways. In final analysis, repealing the Second Amendment or having stricter gun laws will not significantly reduce violence because it will always fail to cover all possibilities and the infinite workarounds. The most important thing we can do to lessen gun violence, gun crime, and gun-related deaths is to better educate the youth and gun owners on the proper use and handling of firearms, the dangers of unsafe handling or improper use of firearms, and the repercussions of using or carrying a firearm. In doing so, we can make a safer nation in which gun violence occurs less because there will be less gun accidents and suicides, and people will be less likely to commit criminal actions because they will know how it affects the people around them and society as a whole. Thank you for your time.